Hello, gorgeous woman, and welcome to this exclusive and very special series of the Rebel Matriarch Podcast, Mystics Unhinged. In this space, our beautiful mystics are coming forth and they are speaking unfiltered, unedited, uncensored truths that every woman needs to hear, especially you. So buckle up, get ready, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous human beings, and welcome to our first ever Mystics Unhinged episode of the Rebel Matriarch Podcast. I am elated and nervous in the best possible way, and really feeling the magnitude of what we're creating in this series and the women that we're bringing into this space. So we do have a live audience with us, which is super exciting. And I'm so grateful to each of you that have showed up live. And I know that there'll also be beautiful women in our community that'll catch the replay. And so they'll be able to receive the medicine and the codes from our beautiful guest, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for being our first guest, because there are currently 12 mystics that are going to be part of this series, and you're kicking off something that's really extraordinary. And I guess it must be that it takes a certain kind of woman that can hold the opening with me, because there's something that needs to come through first, because it's always intuitively led. So something you have to say, or the codes that you hold, are really important for all of us to receive the magnitude of Mystics Unhinged. So I'm really excited to explore what that is. And so for most of us, we don't know you, and we don't know who you are. We don't know what your gifts are. Are you able to just give us a glimpse at what your gifts are, just so that we understand the mystical side of you? And then I'd love to dive into more of the woman behind the mystic after.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much again. It's such an honor to be a part of this. And as you say, to be helping to kick this off. It just kind of, it was the slot that was available and it just felt right, you know? And I was always one to kind of step back from like going first. And I feel like this is part of it, right? So what are my gifts? Let's anchor this in. I have for a while said that my intuition is my superpower. And I always knew that I had a strong intuition before I was very spiritual. My background was science, math. I was supposed to be biology pre-med, switched to psychology. So it's still very, regulated, matrix minded. But there was a part of me that was always making decisions, like the best decisions I always made in life, big life decisions, like where to go to college, to try out for the cheerleading team in college, because I had a background in gymnastics. And I was just like, I'm going to try out, you know? And and then I decided to go to Japan. I decided to go do a yoga teaching course in India. Big life decisions just kind of like happened. And it was really only in hindsight. Also, I applied to grad school, one school, a very competitive school, one program at one school, putting all my eggs in one basket, quite literally. Plus, I had a relationship, a transatlantic relationship on the line. Who does that? That's literally nuts. That's unhinged to put all of your eggs in one basket, like every major aspect of your life on the line. And it panned out because I just knew it was the one for me. It was the program for me. He was not the one for me, but that program was. And so basically, now I would call it claircognizance. My knowing is the strongest gift that I have, my intuition. And I feel like that's a really weird one, honestly, when we talk about the clairs. Clairsentience is a really big one for me as well. I feel things, I know things, I do see things, but not in the way a lot of clairvoyants do. I don't like see entities or auras like in the physical reality, but I think, part of me is like, I'm good holding off on that one because I know that can be kind of intense. I can see things in the field when I tune in multidimensionally, and I guide activations that are super visual, and I bring through frequency and energy when I do that. So I'll do group containers where I guide these activations, but they have healing energy and healing code. So a lot of it is like inner child and meeting your higher self, but there's a layer of alchemy that occurs in most of these guided journeys. And so my sessions are very intuitively led. I do like multidimensional field clearing, womb restoration. And so now I'm accessing more of those multidimensional gifts that are like, it's straight up alchemy, clearing the field of heavy, heavy karma and um, trauma in the energy body. And so I'll leave it there in a nutshell as far as what my gifts are. I'm an oracle, I'm an intuitive, I write, I have a podcast. And so a lot of it is coming through that throat chakra activation as well. So a lot of my work now focuses on the womb. So yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Yes, no, that's great. That's amazing. Incredibly, incredibly, incredibly powerful. And
Mm,
it's really interesting because before I opened the call, I was just sort of sitting with what was coming through, and I was really tapping into that as women, our natural birthright is that we have intuition, but it was always shamed. It's like woo woo, or it's disconnected from reality, or it's ridiculous, or it's nonsense, or it doesn't make sense. It's not logical, and so it's gotten a bad rap. And so and there was like this defense of, well, it's not woo woo, but I'm like, actually it is woo woo. And that's the whole point. The whole point is that it is woo woo, and that we're connected to something bigger than ourselves. And
mhm,
it's the women such as yourself that actually you dedicate time to practice, you're devoted to your craft and tuning into
mhm.
your gifts. And this is why a big part of why I wanted to have this conversation with beautiful mystics is because every woman has gifts, but most of us are disconnected from it. And in hearing stories such as your own of who you were before you really connected to your gifts and who you are now and how your life has changed is an absolute representation of what is possible for women, especially when they hear these stories of like, wow, my life can be really not it's not even about being different, but it's like deeper, it's like more wholesome, it's more grounded, it's more real, that the experiences are more tangible, the joy that we experience is so different, and our ability to experience life through a different lens is profound. And so for more women to experience this is going to be really exciting. So thank you for the clarification and for the tuning into the intuition. And I am absolutely curious to know who you were before your gifts came online and you really started focusing on those.
Yeah, so I say that my journey was kind of long and drawn out. It was like my soul was guiding me the whole time in the direction of where I was always meant to be going, but my ego and that matrix programming kept pulling me back. It was like, nope, we're not going there. Nope, we're not going there yet. And so it actually took a cancer diagnosis at the age of 30 to fully, it was like, I call it a slap in the face, kick in the butt awakening, because I was getting messages immediately. So leading into, getting those gifts coming more online and really noticing it more profoundly, I was getting messages when I was diagnosed that it was not my time to die. It was my job to heal the family pattern of dying from cancer. Casual.
Just
And
full body tingles. Yep.
yeah. And so, you know, how could I ever prove that? You can't. I literally had a PhD in philosophy argue that point with me that I knew I wasn't going to die. He was like, well, there's no way you could have known that. And I was like, you're very much in your masculine logical. I knew it. And you can never tell me that I didn't know that because I knew to the core of my being. But as you were saying, it's like we're not just seeing beyond the veil, we're seeing the unseen, we're feeling the unseen, is how it was really coming through when you were saying that before. Because for the feminine, for the woman especially, we're meant to be so deeply rooted in our body, so connected to our body because the body temple holds the wisdom. And our entire reality is set up to keep us quite disconnected. And I feel that that is the root of most mental illness and physical dis-ease. Dis-ease in the body creates disease. And I was immediately learning about the emotional trauma-based connections with cancer when I was diagnosed. But just to give a little bit more context, I was stressed out at my job. I was not enjoying it. I had 3 yoga teaching certifications at the time. I was a vegetarian hot power yogi, and I was working a job that gave me a degree of flexibility and some level of fulfillment. I was working in the education industry, teaching SAT, math, science, like AP level biology, that kind of thing. ACT, to high school students, primarily also middle school. And a lot of what we were finding was that performance didn't really correlate to intelligence a lot of the time with the students that came to us, straight A's, but we're bombing the the standardized tests. Like, okay, what's the disconnect there? And a lot of it was this performance anxiety, stress about taking the test, right? And so we integrated breath work and, simple tools to help our students. So I was the director of the performance program, is what we called it. And so I was able to incorporate some of that, but every aspect of my soul was saying, no, this is not it. You're not meant to be working in a broken system, because I was seeing how broken the education system was. And that was why my soul was like, you're not going to become a doctor. My 18-year-old self was like, it's too sterile and I don't like blood and I hate chem labs. So we're not going to go down that road. And then like that sterile idea kept coming back. I was like, I knew that whole time. My soul was telling me that it's not holistic and it is too black and white. It's too siloed. It's too sterile. And same thing happened senior year. My 20-year-old brain was like, I don't want to work with depressed people for the rest of my life. So I didn't get my clinical psych degree. But now I see all of that as a disconnection from our spiritual essence underlying all of it. So I was dealing with horrible insomnia. I was not happy in my job and I felt really stuck. So, what did my higher self do? Is it came in and gave me that like crash and burn type of awakening. And I believe in soul contracts, like it was always going to happen on some level. And then I started looking at my previous traumas, like a car accident that flipped over and SA and things like that. So, I was like, okay, it all adds up. But then I started getting into the deeper lineage stuff as well. And now I really see the full picture. But to get back to that message, 7 family members on my dad's side of the family had passed from cancer and cancer related complications. And my dad's brother, my uncle, had passed. So he was on a clinical trial and he was not doing well. And he was like, I just can't do this anymore. And so he decided to go off the trial, and they gave him up to 6 months. I also believe that is a terrible programming that doctors do to patients, but they gave him 6 months to live. We were hoping he would make it to my sister's wedding. He went within 3 days. And that night, I woke up with a sharp shooting pain in my left shoulder, which I now know was referred nerve pain. And I wasn't sleeping well. There was pain when I would lie down on my back or my chest. And I could do a handstand and touch my toes to my head at the same time. But then I was getting all these cough attacks doing yoga. And I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm healthy. What's going on? And then, so I called up the doctor the next morning. I self-diagnosed with a pulmonary embolism because I knew the symptoms were not great, but I wouldn't entertain cancer. But I was like, I need a CT scan today. And they were like, it doesn't work like that. You need a reason to get a CT scan. You can't just order one. You need an insurance approval. And so I was like, all right, fine, just get me in to see my doctor because we were flying out to my uncle's funeral the next day. And I was like, I need to see him this afternoon. So he sent me down to get an x-ray. And then he was like, come back up. We'll check it out together just to make sure there's nothing serious. And I thought he was doing it to appease me. But at least he did that and didn't make me wait more. So I went down, came back up, and he pulled up the x-ray and I literally watched his face kind of go like numb. He was like, hmm. And then he turned the screen and he goes, do you see this white film over your left lung? I have no idea what that is. It looks like you've earned that CT scan after all. And we literally were on the phone with insurance immediately, and he sent me in pretty much within an hour. And so I left having gotten the CT scan, and I got a call as I was about to board the plane the next morning. I got a call from the pet center of the hospital, and they were like, "Hi, Miss Kelly, I'm calling to schedule your pet scan." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, do you know what that is? Have you spoken with your doctor yet? And I was like, no. And she was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe you should speak with your doctor and then you can call me back when you're ready. And I was like, oh
Oh my
shit.
gosh. Yep.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'll leave all the details there, but that is what led up to me really embracing those gifts because I started like, okay, my uncle passed away. Like, I think he's my angel. He went way faster than they said he would have to go, or they gave him 6 months. He went in 3 days. And I was like, I think he saved me. And then I was getting these messages. It's my quarter life crisis. I was like, great. That gives me an entire lifetime. I'll have a long lifetime ahead, 90 more years. So, that was the mentality that I was going into this with. And then I took the bull by the horns, as they say. Before I got that PET scan, I was immediately researching how to heal cancer naturally. I was looking for juice places in the middle of Oklahoma. And, so I put myself on a raw vegan diet, cleansed my colon, colonic. Knowing what I know now, I think I was already healing the cancer before treatment began. But because I was still, teeter-tottering, I got the chemo because my family was scared. And so I had to get myself through 600 hours of chemo. And so that was a whole other level of mindset and energetic work that I had to do. But what I really had to do was let my body rest, let it heal because I was on hypervigilant overdrive for years and I didn't even realize it. And honestly, it has taken me a long time to deal with that underlying issue post treatment. I still had insomnia for 2 years after treatment. I could go on, and there's so many other layers to this, but that was what basically started spiraling me deeper and deeper into the emotions, the energetics, the trauma, the epigenetics, which eventually opened up fully the spiritual realm. And then my gifts started, all these signs were coming into my field and whatnot. So who was I before? I'll leave it there because I know I already spoke for quite a while. But yeah, that's how I got to where I am essentially.
Wow, that's an extraordinary journey. And I feel it's one that most women can relate to, not necessarily the cancer diagnosis, but it's that rock bottom part of our conditioning. It takes such a massive awakening for women to realize, oh, wait, I've been like pushing when I really needed to rest and actually come back to my body, connecting with my body, connecting with my intuition. And so I know that a lot of women will resonate with that journey in and of itself. When was it that you really started to explore your gifts? Because you've got many gifts, and they wouldn't have come online all at the same time at the same intensity. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was definitely more a gradual process. Like some people, it's like all of a sudden they have like this awakening or whatever of their gifts. They come online and it's like that, like Kundalini. And mine was definitely more of a slower process, I would say. Which I'm kind of grateful for, honestly, because I think my body like was had already gone through so much. And I think that's exactly why my journey has been the way it has been, because there is a lack of integration in a lot of what's out there, and people don't know how to integrate, to protect, to clear the field, so on and so forth. So I would say, so like 2019, I found myself in this very high frequency program. And honestly, my nervous system wasn't ready for it. I had a nervous system collapse partway through the program, but we had already done a retreat in Puerto Rico where we were, getting activated with codes and things like that. And I had this like heart activation as well as a high heart activation, beautiful visuals. I got a message like, you are the diamond. And like, seeing like the crystalline body, that was part of what it was. I looked down, I was like standing in a river, this very beautiful, pristine heaven on earth type reality, but I was standing in this like aqua, pure clear water, like gentle river. And I looked down at my arm, and when you look at the bottom of a pool, how it kind of has that kind of crystalline plasmic like essence that's slightly iridescent. Well, that's basically what I saw in my arm. It was like my skin was translucent. And when I turned my arm, I could see that in my body. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. But what is that? And then we received a gift. And when I opened the box, it was a diamond. And I was like, I don't know what to make of this. And she goes, you are the diamond. And so the diamond light body concept kind of was coming into my field, activating. And I had this other visual of like my heart just blasting love out into the world. And it was like a Little Mermaid type visual where, the souls that were trapped at the bottom of the sea. Um, I had this visual that like all of humanity, it's like, people are shells of who they really are, of their higher selves, their souls. So I had this visual of just blasting love energy out into the world, liberating all of all of humanity from these shackles, from these chains, and everybody was like bursting free and coming back to life, coming back into Technicolor and everything. And then shortly after that retreat, I had a message that part of my mission was healing back to wholeness. And so that wholeness essence is one of the words, the terms that was really anchoring me in the whole time. And that is embodiment, that is mastery, that is inner union. When you really start to understand the depth of the meaning of all these words and how it all connects. But like I said, I had a nervous system collapse. So I had to kind of like take a step back. And it was 2020 when everything conspired for me to fully embrace this path. And I did an embodied ascension course. Roses were coming into my field, feathers were guiding me, rose petals. And I got a channeling session that basically brought me to the priestess path. And I realized I was part of this rose lineage. And so that opened up the divine feminine aspect of this journey. And I wound up doing soul travel around the world, pilgrimage to Egypt. And when I was in the King's Chamber, I got activated with these what they came through as was these keys. And so it amplifies the energy is what we were told. So like, and it's an enclosed space. They're like, so if you tend to get anxious in enclosed split spaces, maybe think twice, number one. And second, focus on positive thoughts. So as we were climbing up the ladder into the chamber, I was just like, okay, every step, gratitude, joy, love, peace. I was just like picking words. And when we got into the chamber, we were all guided to be in this meditative process. We each got activated in that sarcophagus with a very specific thing. But it was all in silence. And so we were each in our own meditative process as we were waiting for our turn. And as I was like sitting there meditating, I've never meditated like this in my life, but I just kept like hearing those words. I was like, this is such a basic meditation, but okay. It was just like they were all in like different orders. But then I realized I was going in a very specific order. They had anchored in a very specific order the same words over and over. And I was like, okay, let me pay closer attention. And as I went through, I was like, oh, it's seven chakras. And so then I was like, okay, let's correlate these words with the chakras now. Does this make sense? And it was peace at the root, love, joy, bliss, harmony, wholeness, abundance, the crown chakra opening up. And I was like, oh my gosh, actually, at first it didn't make sense. I was like, shouldn't wholeness be at the heart? Like, I don't know, I was in my mind about it or whatever. And then I was like, oh my gosh, actually, this makes perfect sense. The two hemispheres, masculine, feminine, whatever, whatever. But as I really sat with that, it was months later that all of this was integrating, and then an eighth came through, and it was liberation, like completing the octave and starting the new. So taking us into the expanded chakra body. But I would say that that's what really started to bring my gifts fully online, because that summer over the Lion's Gate, which I don't really attune to in the same way anymore because I know there's so many overlays over these portals. So we have to be so careful. But I've tuned in and I get that, like I was told very early on I have a clear channel as well. And I didn't know what that meant. She was like, well, you're a writer. And she was like, when you write, that's your channel being open. I was like, oh. And so at first, like I didn't even realize my gifts were gifts, honestly. I thought they were just like, normal. And so then I had this journey come through. I was like, oh, maybe I'm meant to make a course with this, with the chakras. What am I supposed to do with it? And then it became very clear. 8 days over Lionsgate. We're going to do an activation every day from August 1st to the 8th. And I did that in 2022. It was like my first time really putting myself out there with a paid offer. And it was these guided activations. And I just trusted what was going to come through. And it was basically like ascended masters, but I don't really channel beings. I channel messages of that frequency and essence, if that makes sense. So what does the embodiment of Yeshua represent, and what kind of message would he bring through? I don't like My ego doesn't control that, but I realize that that is how I get it, because there are some channelers out there that they like the entity will like take over their being. That is not at all how it works with me. And so I did that journey 2 years in a row. And the second year, it was going the descending direction. And it was actually like our interdimensional, intergalactic friends, family, I should probably say. So, like the Syrians and the Lemurian energy came through, and it was all very specifically correlated. But then the high heart chakra and the earth star also came through. And so that really created the foundation. But I realized like what I was like most guided to teach was embodied ascension and embodied transformation. So I also created a whole like a 12-week journey that is very foundational, like how to, get your body temple right, like clarity key, getting your mind right. And then going into some of the deeper shadow work, looking at the inner child, and then heart activations and what is wholeness and how to integrate that. So, really bringing people through that arc of transformation. And so then I just kept getting these inspirations to like, do an elemental journey and a breathwork journey so now I have the entire foundation for a school in place essentially. And that's my inner temple. But so like my gifts, they just kind of started coming on, and I just like was guided to embrace it. But more recently, the womb work, I've gotten into very high level I just kept trusting the path and what was coming into me, basically. And so I did like a Lemurian White Diamond Elo High, like Priestess Arts training, and then Solar Christ Codes training. And I've basically got like defense against the dark arts ninja skills at this point to like clear the field and clear entities and things like that. I haven't faced an entity I haven't been able to clear, and I faced some of the darkest ones at this point, maybe all of them. And I don't say that with any kind of hubris. I know I was taught how to work with the organic ascension template. And so, I just feel that this is what we're being called to anchor in, is like deep mastery with these tools and these gifts to truly embody them and then work with the organic frequencies. And how do you do that? You've really got to open the heart. A lot of people start with a third eye, but it's got to be the heart. And so that's, bringing me back to 2019. Liberating the hearts of humanity is like the byline for my book title, to create heaven on earth. It's not like opening the third eye, it's liberating our hearts. And so that's very much the embodiment piece. And so yeah, it's been quite a journey. And I've just been like one step at a time, like, all right, and you're gonna do this now. Okay. Let's give it a shot. It hasn't been easy. I'm not gonna lie. Like I've kept out some of the darker parts of the experience at this point, but like, yeah, that's how like my gifts came online. I know that's like not a very succinct answer, but it wasn't such a clear pathway either.
No, it's a perfect answer. And I really enjoyed listening to your journey. And I know some women listening in would have been able to follow that conversation. So I was able to follow your conversation really well, and I felt connected to what you were sharing. And I also know some women are going, "Huh? What? What is that? What is she talking about?" And
Sure.
I just want to preface that it's okay. We don't have to understand with our human mind everything that's being shared. A lot of what you're sharing is also being coded into us. Like our subconscious is still receiving, our soul is still receiving, and at some point in the future, these things will start to make sense. And so for anyone that's going, what was she just saying? I have no idea. It's okay. We receive what we receive now, and trust the process as well. And
Yeah.
I want to ask now, I know that you said you don't want to go into the darker parts. However,
No, I didn't. I'm happy to. I just
okay,
didn't want to
yes.
delve in.
Yes. Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you're open to it, because I feel like this is one, it's one of the big things that can scare people away from doing the work, because it's a lot and it's intense. And so I always try to have these conversations, one, so that we can confirm, yes, it is uncomfortable. However, we will also be okay, and that we will get better at navigating it. And what happens on the other side of doing the work is what we're doing it for. And it's really important. So I would love to touch a little bit on what are some of the darker parts of your journey.
Yeah. So I have been through experiences that I say this to myself mostly. I'm like, that was so much harder than going through cancer. The last, I'm saying the last few years, it hasn't been like, as intense, but like lately, but part of the womb work came online because I mean, again, I've not chosen like, oh, I want to be like a womb priestess or anything. Definitely not. I did not see myself working with the womb when I lived in Tulum for a while, surrounded by all of those goddess circles and things like that. And none of it, I mean, I kind of was like, because I was doing this priestess work, but it wasn't resonating. I was like, something feels just not aligned for me, maybe. I don't know, maybe I'm judging. But then I realized there's actually a lot of distorted teachings out there. There's a lot of distorted energy that's not integrated that is teaching this stuff. And so this is where that darkness energy comes in. A lot of it is leaky sexual energy, and a lot of it is unintegrated trauma that allows people's fields are open to these energies and it can hook in. And so you see a lot of overlap between the spiritual community and the festival community and that kind of thing. And then plant medicine, whether that's, festival correlated or not, a lot of people just dive into these things having zero clue what they're getting themselves into, no initiation, no integration, no knowledge of energetic protection and cleansing. I did mention that at the beginning, because I was like, it just came through that way because I was like, I think we have to anchor this in. But this is a huge missing piece. I actually had a message from a client just this morning, a voice note, a very, very sweet message that she was just telling me that she used a couple of the recorded audios from one of my programs. And she was like, oh my gosh, like I felt things on a whole other level that I haven't felt it before. And it was just so helpful. And she was like, I just want to thank you again for doing this work and like bringing us so deep into the energetic protection and clearing, because she's like, I feel like hardly anybody out there is talking about this. And it's so important. And she was literally just sharing a heartfelt note of gratitude with me. But now I feel like she sent that message this morning so I could express this again so clearly, because I didn't have that myself. And it got me into a heap of trouble unwittingly. So, what happened? I was in Tulum and I was like, oh, immersed in all these high vibes, like people who get it, beautiful community. Well, little did I know how unintegrated so many of those people are and how many entities. This is the part of the reason I think my site hasn't come fully online is because I had to go through the initiation myself in this way too. So I'm speaking of this like having come out the other end. I am not in trauma or victim mode about it. I want to be very clear and to let everybody know that there absolutely is a pathway out of these energies if anybody is struggling or they find themselves at this point of struggling, dealing with psychic attack and dealing with energy that makes you feel like you're not yourself. Like, am I depressed? What is wrong with me? I'm exhausted. I can't function. I can't hold a job, that kind of thing, right? There's nothing wrong with you. There could very possibly be these energies in your field. And in some cases, it can be not to put fear into the field, but just to address what is out there, the reality of it. Looking at the Epstein file release, I think a lot more people are recognizing that there is a lot more to our reality, and a lot of it is very dark. And this is real in the spiritual realm. We see it in the spiritual realm, which is why none of this is a surprise to a lot of us, but it happens in the spiritual community. And when you're doing all this work, you're opening yourself up. So if you don't know how to protect or to cleanse your field, what we're doing is light body restoration, essentially, when we walk on this path of organic ascension. So again, those maybe a little bit technical terms, but just think about, if we have an energy body, and if our chakras are out of alignment, it can create little wobbles in our field. So instead of being a fortified like egg, it's got these like kind of indents and like distortions, and it's those indents, distortions, slits and tears, things like that, where these energies can get in. So if our energy isn't flowing and if we're not sovereign, we can have hooks, entanglements, entrapments, cords, all that kind of stuff to people. It's not just like entity attachments, demonic attachments. It's these siphons, these hooks, these cords. So this woman that I met, she was a reader. She was doing psychic surgery sessions, and I was told I did a tiny bit of plant medicine on my journey. Not too much. I'm not so guided to do that personally. Not, I mean, I guess I got what I needed so far in my journey just from a few ceremonies, and they were like mostly private. But I was told that I had an ancestral curse in my womb. And so I asked this woman to do a psychic surgery on me. And this was in August of 2021. And so it took a year for me. So after that, she asked me to live with her when I went back to Tulum after traveling. And I was feeling so terrible the whole time, but I had just been in Egypt and I was like, maybe I'm integrating. I just did a lot of travel and there was this, I was like attuning to the solar flares. I was like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I was exhausted perpetually. And things seemed to be going like this way. And I thought it was all me. And then we went on this, her spidey senses told her that we had to go on a Mary Magdalene pilgrimage together to England and France. And had been in this soul travel phase. So I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? I've been wanting to go. Like, maybe you're right. We need to heal the sisterhood wound because a couple things had like come up when we were living together. And I was like, yeah, okay. But like the red flags were there. And then, like, little bit by little bit, I basically lost everything. And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh my God, I have no money. Like, what happened to all my money? And it's like, okay, like, yes, I was spending money on travels and whatnot, but we're talking like that investment crashed, that investment crashed. And then I even got involved in a scam. And I was just like, wait, what? How is all of this happening all at once? Because everything was going up. I was making very wise decisions. I was being very mindful with how I spent my money, even though I was traveling. Like I had investments and assets and things were going well. And it was like every choice I made after that, every decision I made after that was like a spiral down into the realms. And I was like, what happened? And then it was a year later. Well, so then I found out I had black magic put on me in Avalon. And when I went to Sedona that fall. And I was like, okay, what? And that terrified me. That was what really opened me up to the darkness. And this girl had started gaslighting me, and I had to block her. So she was my healer, my friend, my roommate. And all of a sudden, the mask fell, and like her horrid energy was coming out at me. She was spewing it at me. And I was like, what's happening? But then I was like, okay, there were some red flags. But then I just wound up blocking her everywhere. And then uh, a year later, a full year later of me like feeling completely not myself and trying to like keep going, but it was like I couldn't get the wheels to, it was like they were spinning. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And then I realized, so a friend told me, he confronted me. He was like, hey, Lauren said that you did this. And I was like, what? He was like, she told me that you put a siphon in her womb and was stealing her creative, financial, and like her financial and creation power and abundance. And I was like, what? I was like, come again? I wouldn't even know how to do that if I wanted to, but I was like, why on earth would I have wanted her energy? That doesn't even make any sense. But immediately I was like, oh my God, that's what she did to me. And I thought I was crazy for a minute, but then I spoke with multiple healers and intuitives, and they all saw and felt the same thing, that I was intuitively correct. Because, like, I was like rattled as anything. And to have, but the worst was that she publicly accused me of harming people. Like, she put this on her Instagram and everything. And I was like, oh my God, like everybody thinks I'm this horrible witch now. So talk about the witch wound, right? Activating that. And so like my nervous system was just jacked up at that point, on top of me trying to figure out like how to move forward. I was like in Florida at that point, but like I was just like, what's going on? Like, oh, how do I get out of this? How do I get this thing out of me? Because I had an intuitive tune in, and she was like, this is gnarly. And she was like, oh my God, her energy is so dark. Her energy field is, she's pulling light from a lot of people, not just yours. And so that was really what woke me up to the fact that a lot of people out there are straight up pretenders. They're actually vampires and predators working as healers and gurus in the spiritual world. And they're using that energy from other people to build up their field. And, but it's all a mask. And, so it took me 6 months to figure out how to deal with it, but I had two other encounters in that time frame to find the right person who could help me remove this siphon, because the woman that I spoke with first, she's like, I can wrap it, but I can't take it out, because if I do, I will expose myself to very dark energies that will harm me. And so I was like, oh, like, what am I gonna do then? But I had another shaman who was recommended by a friend. It turned out he was also trying to manipulate me into doing blood magic to bind myself to him while I was on mushrooms in a ceremony. And so I was like, he was taking advantage of me when I was at a vulnerable spot, like in fear of having this thing. He's like, I can help you. And then I realized, like, oh, he wanted my power, because he told me, he was like, you are pure power. And I could then see the hunger in his eyes. And then I started putting the pieces together, and the entity working through him was Azazel. It was like very dark energy. And then, anyway, basically, they tried to ruin my life. These entities, these energies in the spirit realm working through these specific people. Like, these people are vessels for energies and consciousness that are working through them. So, this, I understand that this might sound completely batshit to a lot of people still, even on this journey, because I've told this story to a few people who are like, yeah, that sounds crazy. I've been told, oh, you're making excuses. Well, no, I haven't been, like, I have done the work to get myself out of this, and I have learned the tools to help other women get out of this now. But, not that it's always going to be that dramatic, but the reality is very real, that these dark energies can target us to keep us out of our power, to stop us from expressing our gifts, from fully bringing them online. And if our nervous system is in hypervigilant state, if we don't feel safe, if we don't feel safe in our body, if we don't feel safe speaking our truth, if we don't feel safe expressing our gifts, they win, because we're not going to be able to actually fulfill our mission. And so it has been at many times a very harrowing journey of clearing my field of these energies and taking my power back, but so worth it, because I feel great. And now I just see things a little differently. But, I can see how, at these festivals, people are hooking in because they're opening up through drugs and through leaky sexual energy and stuff like that. And so, we just, it's from a space of discernment. What I have been saying for some time now is, I feel that discernment is the initiation of our time, because we have lost the mystery schools. We don't have mentors and teachers walking us through this process. I believe we need to fundamentally overhaul the education system and integrate a lot of this into like baseline curriculum, like starting with emotional intelligence, but then guiding children to, like, because I believe children have these gifts pretty activated, and then our culture, society kind of shuts it down. Oh, it's just your imagination, your imaginary friend. Or but like, more kids are incarnating, and we see this on social media, how they're bringing through these messages that are like incredibly profound. And so that's like one, that's a tangent, but at the end of the day, that, like, I could probably share more details, but in a nutshell, that is the the dark side that I have experienced. But then in sessions, I have seen a lot of this energy working through other women and some men too. But like the womb sessions, especially, I have seen just how targeted the womb has been. So yeah, and looking at the Epstein files, like we don't have to go totally down that rabbit hole, but we can see, like I just did a podcast on this, how it's a war on innocence, targeting the womb, targeting children, but that purity, that innocence is what they're really targeting with all of this. And when you look back through the millennia, it's always about controlling the womb because the womb is the portal of creation, is the portal of life. And so if you can control the womb, you can control the world. And we can even get into stargates with all of that. But yeah, it's like, yeah. I've seen gnarly stuff doing grid work and this womb work and yeah, yeah. So the dark stuff, the dark side is real, but to always end on a little hopeful note when we talk about that stuff, like there's the whole point is we get our power back when we actually confront it. The courage to confront evil. Carolyn Miss talk that I did a podcast episode on after I found out about this whole situation. I was like, yeah, we got to stop projecting onto other people and own where we're allowing this energy into, because what it did was it taught me where I was still not in my power, where I still had leaky open boundaries, where I still had unintegrated trauma and a dysregulated nervous system. So, what were the gifts in all of that insanity? Like, there were very profound, deep gifts, and that is how I activated more of my gifts.
This is really huge and really important, and literally something that stirred up Rebel Matriarch for me is that women are not in their power. We are so disconnected from our power, and without even realizing it, we're allowing so much unsavory experiences to occur in our reality, in our extended reality, not intentionally, but because we're not being intentional about what we're doing and how we're showing up, and because we're so disconnected from our power. And so a big part of my mission is having these sorts of conversations, because we really need to take radical self-responsibility, because we've spent so much time saying, you know, no one's coming to save me, or outsourcing our power and hoping that someone else is going to come in and save us or fix a problem. And the reality is, or even like the way that we blame. So we've all experienced horrible things in our lives, and it's so easy to say, it's their fault, they did this to me. And yes, what they did was incorrect and it should not have happened. And it's not fair that it's your responsibility to address it. However, that is the reality of it. And so many of us don't understand the magnitude of that responsibility and what is required of us to actually sit in the presence of the duality of life. And so you're talking about the darkness, and I heard wolf in sheep's clothing, right? We've all heard that saying, and that's exactly what it is. And I think, and the Epstein file is actually a really good example. So I guess it's coming through at a good time, in that there are so many people in that on the files, and people they're shocked, right? I'm not shocked about anything. I know that I've known about this for a really long time. People are shocked by the people on the list, and it's like, well, and it's uncomfortable for them because they put so much faith into them, so much love, respect, trust into these people who they didn't really know. But that's how it was orchestrated. And now it feels like they've been betrayed, and it feels like their world is crumbling and their reality is crumbling, because they're like, what else have I been lied to about? And so there's definitely a massive wobble happening. But it's literally the same concept with our spiritual masters and leaders, like people that are doing the work that you're doing and that a lot of us are experimenting with and learning about, is we're putting our trust and faith into our so-called gurus and masters and leaders, not realizing that they too are wearing a mask. And so I now understand why you came first, because the work you're doing and the work that is required of women to do is so important. However, we really need to be mindful of where we're outsourcing our power and we need to be mindful of where we need to create protection or purification, or just like seal the gaps of when things are escaping. And so I feel like a big part of what you're here to do in this particular call is talk us through, or share with us the process of protection, or what that looks like for women, especially as we're starting to come online and discover our intuition. And we're starting to realize I have a lot more power than I was led to believe. And so now I have a lot more responsibility. And so what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and not necessarily a simple
Never is.
like XYZ type answer. Um, but what's coming through is the baseline levels of energetic hygiene, which is also physical vessel hygiene, taking care of the body temple above all. So if I will give you some very specific examples of things that I do every morning. I drink lemon water, warm lemon water. I'll give you the recipe. Half a lemon, cold room temperature water, and then I fill it up with hot water. So the enzymes are still active, but it's not cold water. Hydration, yes. Grounding, yes. But I also always start my day with breath work. And I used to meditate a lot, and I found that breath work was actually more beneficial, also more efficient. And so I will do like a breath work with, I do this before my lemon water. Breath work with a brief clearing, which I can guide an actual clearing if we do a short journey in a moment. I won't do it this moment, but I will. Some of the things I say, by the way, like just to give you a heads up, if we do this, a lot of you are not going to know what the things are. They're technical, and that's okay. Like I have this is one of the audios. It's like 6 minutes long or whatever, the audio. But like you can also just call in. What I do is I connect with the way I connect is Holy Mother, Holy Father, God, God beyond religion. And I call in like diamond and rainbow light is what I connect with as the Christ light, and then some golden energy as well. Those are the two frequencies that I work with, and it's the both the solar masculine and the solar feminine, the solar masculine Christ, the solar feminine Christ light as a frequency, is how I work. And I have found it to be very profoundly effective. So, it's like you will do greater things than me, for I am going to the Father, not to get religious here, but he was talking in terms of ascension. He did not want a religion created after him, right? And so there is some deep truth in that, but we have lost the real meaning. And what does he mean? He going to God. God has ultimate authority, and that's why I'm able to clear the entities that I can, because they actually cannot withstand that Christ light frequency. So this is how we can approach this with no fear, knowing that God has ultimate authority and that Christ light truly genuinely is protective. But I won't get into this tangent. There is the black cube of religion. So some people are kind of doing the pendulum swing where if they're actually getting trapped because they're still seeking a savior outside of themselves. So that's the difference. Having a direct personal relationship and connection is a very different thing than doing it like the religious way. So basically, to get back to it, I call in those energies, and I will sometimes do a quick clearing. But for clients, I recommend that they do a full clearing twice a day when they wake up before they go to sleep, to protect in the astral realm. Um, and over time, that restores the light body. And so sometimes there's going to be a lot like, deeper ancestral stuff and trauma layers that have to be worked through. But this works. It really does work. And, there's all sorts of other little processes that we can recommend. But even just like the breath work and calling in that, and then tending to the physical vessel, like moving your body, moving the lymph system so the waste is being eliminated, doing fasting or cleansing every so often as you feel guided. Everyone should probably consider at least a parasite cleanse, because the actual physical parasites are also allowing in energetic parasites and things like that. It's all connected, right? So, not to get too overwhelming with this, again, I would recommend lemon water and breath work and like a clearing slash connection. Like I just do a very simple prayer, like a gratitude and a simple prayer. I don't even take a super long time in the morning anymore. With my, some people will meditate for like 2 hours, and I'm like, 10, 15 minutes and I'm good to go usually. But that's also because I've been doing this for a while. And so I have gotten to a point where my energy field, my light body is pretty strong and stable. So, I'm not going to say that that isn't like enough for everyone, but, just to, also the light at the end of the tunnel is very real. Like I am not swayed by solar flares and moon energies as much, like I still feel tired on occasion. Like this week has been quite intense. But I used to get really rattled by these energies. And the more I've done this work, like I am much more sovereign in my energy field. Sovereignty. I've been talking about divine feminine sovereignty, reclamation, very specific phrase that has come through. Like it's taking our energy back and being so stable and solid in our field, which is nervous system. Also, any kind of nervous system regulation, which is where the breath work kind of comes in for me. And, just like not being so swayed by these energies. And sometimes that is like blocking people or unhooking energetically and things like that. But yeah, so like you can get very technical and very deep with this work. And sometimes that's absolutely necessary if there's trauma from past sexual relations, especially is coming up, like sexual assaults. Like, unfortunately, many women have that kind of energy in their field. And sometimes it's also coming down through the lineage. Like I had a visual recently. It was like I was doing my cosmic womb course the other, like couple months ago. I was, you know, kind of in a meditative process to bring through the next class, and I was like, all right, what is the energy and frequency? And all of a sudden I had this visual of my mom in shock and terror. And I didn't see any context, but I was like, whoa, that was intense. And my mom is very shut down. I don't know very much about her past, much less trauma. And so, but I knew that that was an energy that I had to transmute for lineage, right? So again, like this, it's very deep work, but also there are very basic things that we can do to start to stabilize the field. Like I was saying, not to repeat myself over and over, but the lemon water, the breath work, and just a simple gratitude prayer practice. You can meditate if you like, of course, like as you feel guided. Like, and that's part of what this journey is like really tuning into your body and what your body needs, what your heart and soul is telling you, what your higher self is guiding you to do. So take that and modify, of course, those are just suggestions. But, for me, those are like my go-tos that I have done for years. And I travel with lemons.
We,
So I
we
gotta
are
have my lemon
dedicated.
water.
Yes, I
Or
can
I try to
attest.
find them immediately. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
And it's such a simple practice as well, introducing lemon water. So I also highly
Yeah.
recommend it because I do lemon water too.
Mm.
It's so good for
Yeah,
you.
it's a simple way to like get in tune with your body, and it's like a ritual. You can make a ritual out of it. So your morning starts off with mindfulness and connection to your body. That's part of it. It doesn't have to be an elaborate morning ritual. It just has to be something simple. And that's what I have found has worked for me, that little combo. But if nothing else, the lemon water. And then, I get more in tune with my body and yeah.
I love it. I love that. Thank you. Do you feel like you would be open to doing, I think you mentioned a practice or an activation for us so that people
Yeah,
listening in can also experience what that looks like and feels like?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I could do, I mean, I don't like 15 minutes. Is that cool? If it 20 minutes, something in that range? Is that too long?
Yes. Yeah, do you have something a little bit shorter that you feel
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
through?
Okay, yeah. We're just gonna do then I'll do a shorter one and try to keep it to like 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, just something so
10,
that people
10,
can
15 minutes.
do each day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, like a daily thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, what's coming through is this. So, yeah. Okay. We'll do this.
Yeah. Do you want
Okay.
to? I'll go on mute and we'll just like tune into what you're
Sure.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, let me take a sip of water real quick.
All right, ladies, let's get comfortable.
Mm-hmm. So, I invite you to close your eyes and get comfortable, whether you're seated or lying down. Just really feel your body supported, fully supported in this moment, allowing your feet to plant, your root to anchor, or your body to feel fully held and supported. Just noticing anywhere in your body that you are feeling tension or clenching. Sometimes it's really surprising when you tune in with your body and you notice you're subconsciously, unconsciously holding tension, like your fingers are in a fist, or your jaw is clenched, or your shoulders are still hunched. So, without any judgment, just tune in and begin to deepen your breath as you do this and breathe life into these pockets of density, using the breath of life to bring you deeper into stillness, into your body, and into a sense of peace. The peace that passes all understanding is one of the ultimate goals of this journey, in my humble view. So, breathing now deep into the belly. Fill your belly, fill your womb all the way up with this breath of life, feeling your rib cage expand and your chest lift. And as you exhale, allow yourself to soften, allowing it to flow out gently, slowly. Option to add a sigh, an audible sigh, if that feels comfortable on the exhale. Breathing deep again down into the base of your spine, into your womb, filling all the way up. Noticing a golden light beginning to ignite in your heart space. And with your exhale, imagine this golden light gently beginning to bring more life into your veins, this warm, living, intelligent life, gently flowing through your body. And with your next inhale, making this the longest, deepest, slowest breath of your day, filling all the way up with this beautiful golden light, breathing it in, amplifying this light, feeling it flow into your heart space, illuminating your heart, your chest. And with your exhale, allowing it to flow down through your veins into your cells and your DNA, activating, upgrading, feeling this light flowing out through your pores into your energy field, filling up your aura, surrounding you now with a beautiful golden egg of protection. So, connecting now with the light 300 feet above you, the light of the Holy Father, sacred masculine principle, this golden white light, allowing it to flow down like a beautiful golden waterfall of light, flowing down from the spiritual sun or central sun all the way down through the crown, down through your central column, through your energy centers, down to your root, down to the soles of your feet. rooting your soul through the soles of your feet to Gaia, and inhaling this light of the sacred masculine principle up into your heart space, feeling it merge with your inner heart light, growing brighter, and with your exhale, feeling this light of the divine masculine flowing down into your cells and DNA and out into your energy field, fortifying your field of protection and connection. Breathing into your heart space, feeling this light amplify and grow bright. And now imagine it descending down through your root, through the soles of your feet, into the Earth Star chakra 12 inches below your feet, connecting you to the crystalline grid of Gaia. Flowing all the way down now through the crust of the earth, all the way down into the crystalline core of Gaia, connecting with her beautiful, flowing, plasmic essence, connecting with the Holy Mother, sacred feminine principle that is warm, loving, flowing, intelligent, beautiful with its iridescent essence, flowing up now as if through roots all the way up to connect with your Earth Star chakra. And imagine this now forming a base shield, a horizontal circular shield, a few feet in diameter, this plasmic field of light that is like a foundation for your energy body that is connected to the grid and profoundly protective. And now imagine her plasmic crystalline essence flowing up through the soles of your feet, through your root, all the way up your central column to the crown, flowing down into your heart space, feeling her essence flowing into your veins, your cells, your DNA, this crystalline diamond essence activating, upgrading your DNA to its highest expression, breathing her essence into your heart space where it merges with the Holy Father and your inner heart light essences, creating the Holy Trinity within to birth the Holy Child. This light that is iridescent, golden, white, this pure, divine light that is who you are at your core. Imagine this light field growing stronger, amplifying, spinning, creating a torus field, and flowing out now. This Merkaba field strengthening and flowing out around your energy body, fortifying this egg of protection, fortifying it like a diamond to create this diamond shield of light, this 12th dimensional and above diamond shield of light that is automatically clearing and protective, connecting you, protecting you, shielding you from any misaligned foreign energies that are not of the highest frequencies of truth, love, and light. And now we'll take a brief moment to enter into the heart space to reconnect you with the inner temple within your heart. So imagine 5 golden steps appearing before you, descending into an emerald door. So begin to descend these steps: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And see this emerald door glowing brighter, becoming a portal that you can step through, activating you with this beautiful emerald essence, the emerald flame of your emerald heart, gently activating, cleansing, clearing you. As you step into the infinitely faceted diamond crystalline chamber of your heart, reflecting infinite possibilities, infinite potentials, radiant beauty, colors beyond our visible spectrum, reflecting back to you through every fractal in this diamond. And now you see one of the fractals glowing brighter, growing larger. Notice the color. And as it grows brighter to become a doorway, a portal for you to step through, just feel the essence of that frequency, of that color. And as you step through, feel this light ray activating you. And as you step through, you find yourself in the rose garden of your heart. You look around and notice the beauty, the softness, the abundance, the sweet essence of pure life growing all around you, the sweet scent of honey, the gentle buzz of the bees, and the song of the birds. You feel the grass beneath your feet. And as you look around and breathe in this air, you notice that the air itself feels more alive, more vibrant. And as you breathe it in, you feel that it holds nourishing essence, the ether containing the codes of nourishment that are feeding your body with this pure essence of life, bringing your cells back to life as you breathe it in. Breathing in joy, love, beauty, abundance, harmony. And there is a temple at the center of this garden, the inner temple of your heart. So we're just going to enter the temple to meet the crystalline pool of healing and remembrance, where you can connect with your inner child and your higher self with absolute ease and openness. You can dip your feet in, feeling that sense of instant relaxation, the healing plasmic waters of this crystalline pool holding codes of healing, codes of remembrance, of activation. And even simply looking at the pool like a mirror reflecting back to you the truth of who you really are, the truth of what you need to see in this moment, perhaps. So you can come back here anytime to receive gifts from your inner child, from your higher self, to simply connect with this garden. So take any essence into your heart that is coming through in this moment, knowing that you can return here as often as you wish, utterly connected and protected. It is totally safe to go as deep as you wish into this well of remembrance, the well of wealth, the richness of the garden that surrounds you. So walk back through the garden, through the portal, back into the crystalline diamond chamber of your heart, taking one last moment to look around, breathing in the beauty, the awe, the inspiration, and stepping back through the emerald portal to ascend the golden steps back into your body, into the here and now. Taking a deep breath to come back into the present, back into your body. You can begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the here and now.
Whew. Just giving everyone a few moments. It's been a long time since I've done a beautiful visualization and activation like that. And I miss it. That was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, I'm so glad. Honestly, that was a brief version of what I guide people through a lot of the time. But yeah, I feel like, as something to come back to, it can really help to just like have that visual, and now people can bring themselves there even without, you can tune in with this as a, reminder, but people can eventually just bring themselves into that space. Yeah. Oh, you're
Yeah.
so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm
Yeah.
glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
beautiful ladies are on the live call of just showing gratitude because, and I'm anyone who's tuning into this and has had a moment to go through the process, I would love to hear your feedback on it as well, whether you're in the community with a live audience or whether you're listening to this podcast once it's live. Definitely share your experiences. We can let Amanda know how grateful we are for the work that she brings to the world. It has been an absolute honor witnessing you unhinged. Thank you for bringing all of you and all of your experiences. Obviously, it's not all. I say all very generously. There are so many, but everything you did bring was so profound. And I'm curious to know if you're sort of tuning into what's possible for women, whether it's the women inside the group or whether it's the collective or if it's a bit of both. What comes through for you as a message for the women that are receiving this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is this is such a timely time to be doing this. I believe this year especially is the year that we will look back on and we will say that this is the year that things have changed, and we can already see that wheel spinning, the foundation shifting with these revelations coming out. And like humanity can never look back. We can't unsee this, right? And so, what is this really about? I believe all of this is happening. If we look at what's going on in Iran, connected to the files, connected to, well, I won't even get into the border issue, but the border issue connects to the files and everything, the trafficking layer, right? This is why it's such a heightened issue, because there's actual, like, real things underlying what the problem of it being open, right? That is impacting women and children. And so this is a moment for divine feminine sovereignty reclamation. This is a moment for women to really step into their power, the year of the fire horse coming through. What does that really mean? It means we have to be embodied in our fire. We have to be embodied in our flame, in our truth, and to really step fully into our gifts, our power, our truth, expressing that, because it is our medicine and wisdom that is so desperately needed in this world that is completely out of balance and out of harmony. And I don't think like anybody would argue with that at this point, right? And I very firmly believe that healed wombs will heal the world. And looking at practically, generationally, when a woman heals a womb and brings through a baby in the frequency of love and harmony and isn't passing on the generational trauma, we're here to stop that pattern. We're here to, the cycle ends with us kind of thing, right? But then, a lot of women are past that age, or they don't feel the call to have women. Well, it's still just as important to do this womb work, because the womb is the center of our life force, our power, our creation energy, our abundance energy. And that's why it's so heavily targeted, because this is where our oracular wisdom comes from too. It's like the triple flame energy activating the womb and the throat, intimately connected. It's how we express our truth fully, is we need a healed womb. How do we express our gifts in their purest, highest frequency? I have been given feedback. I used to have a very shut down the throat chakra. I didn't get into that aspect of things. And now here I am. I have a podcast of my own. I'm going on podcasts and I'm like, let me talk more. And I have had people tell me that they can see these like pure codes, like people who are clairvoyant, like coming through my words. And I found that to be very fascinating. And I feel it is a testament to the work that I have done, but specifically a lot of the womb work that I have done. I wasn't able to get a book out there until I did a lot of this deeper restoration work. I tried to get the book out, and it took me years. And then it was like I finally got to the point of where things were starting to click and to clear. My field was clearer. And so the expression itself was clearer, the way it's meant to be received. And then I recorded my audiobook this year. I honestly even feel that my throat has upgraded since I recorded, but it's still, in the timeline. So, the more that we do this work, the more that our gifts will be received in their power and their purity. So I feel that this is what is possible and available for us is literal changing the world. We're literally here to change the world and create a new paradigm. And that sounds massive, and it is massive. But when we look at it at this baseline of us each stepping up to do the work and create these new systems, these structures, these creations, whether it's art or music, or we're bringing frequency into the world, and frequency is everything, right? So this is how we elevate the consciousness of humanity, is through our pure expressions, through our pure creations. And this is very much incumbent upon a healed womb, but also just us standing in our power and our sovereignty. So it's like getting these multi-dimensional layers all working together, mind, body, soul, all working together. So
absolutely. What a profound message. Thank you. Thank you for that. I truly believe it's something that women need to hear and realize their power. And in doing the womb work, and you've mentioned it multiple times as well, there were times in your life where you weren't able to be aware of things that were happening, right? And so as women, because we've been so disconnected, we're not really aware of all the things. But the more we come into our power, the more we do womb work, and we sort of really take ownership of who we're here to be and what we're here to do, we'll start to notice things in our surroundings, in our families, in ourselves, in our communities, and be like, oh, wait, hang on a minute, that's not okay. And that's an opportunity for us to step into leadership as matriarchs, rebel matriarchs, and do what we came here to do. So thank you so much for that beautiful message. And I will be absolutely including ways for women to work with you who feel called to work with you, because your medicine and your codes are so important, in the show notes and also in the group as well. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for this really important conversation, and for offering this beautiful protection as we journey on into the depths of mysticism and multidimensionality.
Yeah. I call it the diamond shield. The diamond shield of protection. Yeah.
Protection, that's perfect.
I brought like an extra process through with it, but yeah, the diamond shield itself.
It was incredible, and all the ladies have just said thank you so much. You kind of emerge from it feeling very grounded, which I think is important.
Yeah, honestly, like I kind of said this in the transmission, and I'll keep this brief, I promise. But I think one of the highest goals of doing this work is peace, which is going to sound very boring to somebody who's still operating in the trauma drama and is like, oh, we're going to ascend and go off into the galaxies and whatnot, astral travel. And I'm like, actually, the ultimate goal here is inner peace and harmony, the peace that passes all understanding. I mean that quite literally. And it's like, but when you feel that, oh my goodness, to feel grounded and at peace after living the way that we have been, it's like so transformative and profound. You're like, oh man, this is amazing. And then you can, access those layers of like bliss and things like that, but not astral bliss, grounded bliss.
Because we are still humans having human experiences. So it's the grounded piece that is actually going to guide the most extraordinary life experiences, and the deep ones too, the ones that require us to look in the mirror and overcome what we need to overcome. So I love that. The goal, ladies, is peace.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, lovely. I'm going to wrap this here and just sending you so much love. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to releasing this.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly been such an honor. And thank you to the ladies who are joining for this. Yeah, it's just been such a pleasure to have this platform to share these messages. So thank you.
So welcome.
Thank you for being here, gorgeous woman, for rising with us, remembering with us, and refusing to shrink inside a world that benefits from your silence. If this episode moved you, cracked you open, or reminded you of who the hell you are becoming, share it with a woman who is ready to rise too. I want to invite you to follow, subscribe, and leave a rating so this message becomes too loud, too wild, and too undeniable to be ignored. The movement grows because of women like you, women who choose truth over comfort, liberation over obedience, and voice over disappearance. You can connect with me, Samantha Sanford, at Rebel Matriarch, and all links to our guest are in the show notes below. Until next time, stay rooted, stay rebellious, and remember, the world changes when women refuse to disappear.